Lindsay, thank you so much. We want to talk to one of our favorite guests here on Arc Salt Lake, Ann Emerson with Criminally Obsessed. Ann, are you there this morning? Can you hear me
I
okay?
am. I am. Good to hear you. How are you?
I'm doing well. So we were going to talk about Corey Richards, but you are letting us know that you also have some things to talk about with the Nancy Guthrie investigation this morning. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, literally 32 minutes ago, Savannah Guthrie posted a new Instagram post pleading for the recovery or, that her mother is found either alive miraculously or otherwise. And she put up $1 million reward for her to be found. And that reward she's already said it's in line with what the FBI has already said that needed to be as far as information that would lead to her recovery. And I'm using the word recovery not because we think that anything's happened to Nancy Guthrie yet, because we don't have any information like that, of course, but that is they're trying to find her and find out what happened to her, of course. And then the other part of it that is amazing is that, Savannah's come out and said, I know there's a lot of other missing people out there. There are so many families that are suffering just like she is right now. In fact, I think the count right now is somewhere near 600,000 missing people in the United States. And she's now put $500,000 into the National Center for Exploited Missing Children, Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, to help in that endeavor.
And I want to talk about this. Obviously, the public, we don't know what we don't know. Some things may be being kept from us. But when it comes to the ransom that we heard talked about in the early part of the investigation here, a Bitcoin account, I haven't heard a whole lot about that recently, as if that is not on the table anymore. What can you talk about that?
Lincoln, I'm having a hard time hearing you this morning for some reason, but I am hearing that you're talking about the ransom and how effective that's been basically with this ransom note or notes that have been coming through, and whether or not that's actually real or that is some kind of scam that's been going on. I mean, I think there's been a lot of discussion about that, as you said, and so far, I think they've taken it extremely seriously with the FBI and the Sheriff's Department. But having said that, they are still looking at other possible causes of this. They're certainly not saying that was what happened to her. I think what they have said that this was a targeted abduction. That is what the sheriff believes, and that's what he's going with. Now, whether or not these ransom notes that have come out in the press and in media and on tabloid, sites like TMZ, we don't know. We don't know if those Bitcoin ransoms were anything because nothing ever came of it. And honestly, Lincoln, the biggest problem with those is that they never gave the Guthrie family what they needed for proof of life. So, to be going all the way down that road with these ransoms would have been unfortunate, especially if this had turned out to be one or a series of scams.
How unusual is this case to you?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is one of those cases you're only going to see. It's just so infrequently, especially with such a high-profile situation, especially with a vulnerable 84-year-old adult with health problems. And now, every time more information comes to the surface, I don't blame Savannah for thinking that her mother is still alive, because there are so many reasons for her to hold hope, and that is unusual that we are on day 24 and still in this situation where she's upping the reward to try and find out information to lead to her mother, but also that we just have so many mixed messages coming out. And I think it really speaks to the level of interest in the country, how so many journalists like myself and podcasters have stayed on this story, because honestly, I think people really care, and it's a universal issue with with parents being elderly and people my age having children and having elderly parents, and how this has been a struggle for so many families. So, it's hitting some universal threads, and then to see something so catastrophic happen to the Guthrie family with an abduction of an elderly person, I think it just is beyond, it's beyond for a lot of Americans right now. So it is absolutely holding the interest, that's for sure.
Do you still think there's a lot the public does not know?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
In terms of what we don't know, is there still a lot we don't know?
There's a lot we don't know. And and as far as what they're trying to tell us and what the investigation actually knows, those are two totally different things, right? So what we understand is, like, great example is recently in the news, you've been seeing how there's these two images from the surveillance video, one of a masked man with a backpack, one without a backpack. So there's been an enormous amount of speculation that this man without the backpack had come earlier. Now, literally this morning, the Pima County Sheriff had to come out and say, we don't know when the man without the backpack was on that surveillance video. And if you're watching the case as carefully as I think many of your viewers are, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there were these two images, and we were like, how do these two coordinate? Were they in the same place at the same time or before it? Sources came into ABC News and some other media outlets that said, investigative sources that said that this was at a different time. But Pima County Sheriff says, no, we don't know that. We can't say that. So, because there's no timestamp on these videos. So that's just a great example of how much we think we know as we go through this case, and how much we don't know. And that, like all good investigations, they have got to keep a lot of this to their chest as they go through, if there is any hope that they can solve this extraordinary disappearance.
Okay. Ann Emerson, thank you so much for joining us to talk about the latest breaking developments in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. As Ann said, Savannah Guthrie releasing a video just this morning, another video. So thank you, Ann. All right, time right